If you've been drinking the orange Kool-Aid, you've long recognized the KTM RC390 and its naked forebear, the Duke 390, as being one of the most competitive beginner bikes in the class, both in regards to its performance and features. Despite its legacy, which is now coming up on almost 10 years of production, the RC390, as it stands, faces many risks from an increasingly competitive market. It looks like KTM's buddy CF Moto, not to mention other manufacturers, might be making things a little challenging for Team Orange going forward. On today's episode of Yami Noob, let's look at the KTM RC390 and determine whether or not it is still ready to race with the competition. Today's video is sponsored by our friends at Rockform. I'll tell you more about them later in the show. Now let's get into it. It's impossible to talk about the RC390 without simultaneously talking about the Duke. These motorcycles are small displacement sport and naked bikes from KTM that are both built around a 373cc single-cylinder engine. These bikes are the result of KTM's joint ownership with Bajaj Auto in India. The concept originated in Austria, but all other aspects, including design and final production development, were carried out by India and Bajaj. That's why it's one of the most popular bikes over there and is seen as a top-tier bike. In its domestic market in India, the 390 Duke falls within the mid-range category in terms of engine size and weight, commanding a price tag that exceeds 3 times the average cost of most motorcycles in India. Like I said, it's kind of a big deal to own one of these bikes out there. Described by an Indian reviewer as a straightforward A2 licensed commuter for European riders, the 390 Duke transforms into a high-performance rocket in the bustling traffic of Mumbai. Conversely, in the US market, this motorcycle is perceived as a compact, lightweight, and comparatively affordable beginner bike. KTM's ability to sell these bikes as premium offerings in densely populated areas in India and Asia, while simultaneously being lauded as accessible and affordable beginner bikes in the States and Europe, is really quite savvy. Through their global distribution, they're able to get both sides of the motorcycling market. I'm sure KTM and Bajaj have recouped the R&D costs thousands of times over at this point. The 390 Duke debuted in 2012 and was released in India and the Philippines in 2013. It was followed by the US launch in 2015. The RC390 Sport bike was introduced the following year. When they were initially released, the Duke and RC390 motorcycles offered something quite new to the beginner sport bike segment. As the platform progressed, they became increasingly value-driven as new features were added that were more or less unique to motorcycles that were budget-conscious. These bikes share many similar components, though the RC390 has used a different frame for increased rigidity. Each bike is powered by a 373cc single-cylinder engine, making 43 horsepower and 26 foot-pounds of torque. This engine design provides a fun, punchy, torquey riding experience that's rather unique in the beginner bike world, where at the time of release in 2015, you'd have typically found significantly smaller engines that were more rev-happy with their 2 cylinders. Due to the size of the engine, where all displacement is spread across a single cylinder, the Thumper delivers a truly nice riding experience, very reminiscent of a motorcycle from KTM, despite its petite stature. After the 2017 model year, these bikes saw an upgraded tech package with LED lighting, a TFT display, and a ride-by-wire throttle system. The RC390 has always been the super sporty beginner bike option, and it continues to be so today with a much taller seat height and more aggressive riding positions. The Duke 390 and RC390 have mostly run in tandem since their release, sharing components like WP suspension and bi-bree brakes. Although it is worth noting, until the 2024 model year, the RC390 was offered with adjustable front suspension, while the Duke was not. The most glaring difference between the Duke and the RC models is, of course, the ergonomics package and bodywork. The RC390, designed as an entry-level racing machine, is fully fair to the clip-on handlebars, while the Duke has an upright naked body style. And heck, the RC390 even had its own Cup series here in America. Now look, the RC390 might be packed with features, but you know what it doesn't have? A military-grade, drop-tested phone case with the world's strongest magnet, but that's okay because Rockform's got you covered. Rockform makes the best-in-class phone accessories for every type of motorcycle rider. Whether you're navigating country roads or playing Angry Birds at the stoplight, Rockform offers safe and convenient protection for your cell phone. Motorcyclists live active lives. Even when we're not riding, we're working on our bikes or throwing tools in anger after stripping a bolt, or crawling around on our hands and knees looking for our 10mm socket. With a Rockform case, you've got one less thing to worry about. The ultra-strong magnets mean you can attach your phone to your toolbox and your gas tank while you're listening to calming meditation music so you can keep your cool. A Rockform case is a building block to the entire Rockform ecosystem, which includes handlebar mounts for your motorcycle, a mount for your car, or a mount for your bicycle. Head over to rockform.com to shop their selection. When you're ready to order, use the code YN25 at checkout for 25% off of your order. That's code YN25 for 25% off. A huge thanks to Rockform for supporting what we do over here at Yami Noob. Now let's get back to the video. When it was first released, the RC390 and Duke 390 were competing with the classic, albeit considerably unexciting beginner bikes from the Big Four. Motorcycles like the Kawasaki Ninja 300, Honda CBR 300R, the Yamaha R3, and of course the cursed Gixxer 250. That being said, said, the only motorcycle that was really in competition with these bikes from KTM was the Yamaha R3 back in the day. The Ninja 300, which launched in 2012 and was sold in the US until 2018 when it was surpassed by the much better Ninja 400, was Kawasaki's evolution in the long-running Ninja 250 model. We can all agree the Ninja 250 was a smashing success, as it granted noobs the opportunity to live the Ninja Supersport lifestyle without the risk of yeeting themselves into infinity. But then as the decades passed and sport bikes became ubiquitous, the Ninja 300 wasn't all that exciting. That isn't to say that any beginner Ninja has ever truly been bad. They've been well-made and loved motorcycles for decades, but in 2015, up against the Yamaha R3 and then the KTM RC390, it fell short in both power, displacement, and tech. Kawasaki then upgraded the Ninja, increasing it to 400 cc's, which has allowed it to remain a class contender and, in my opinion, still the cream of the crop. Kawasaki has since upped the ante further for 2024, but we'll cover that a little bit more later in the video. Honda's entry-level sport bike options have never been highly regarded as most other motorcycles in their lineup. The CBR 300R has a 286cc single cylinder that makes 30 horsepower and 20 foot-pounds of torque, so it's down nearly 100 cc's and over 13 horsepower compared to the RC390. While 13 horsepower might not seem like much of a difference for many large displacement sport bikes, it is nearly a 50% increase for a motorcycle that makes just 30 horsepower. So right off the bat, the RC390 has a clear power advantage over the CBR. In the very early years of the RC390, it admittedly didn't have the same build quality and feel you'd find on the Honda, but very quickly the platform received some much needed upgrades, which not only made it on par with the Japanese bikes, but also equipped it with more features like adjustable suspension, LED lighting, a TFT display, and switchable ride modes. It's almost as if KTM knew that they were to compete with the Japanese companies that become a household name in motorsports for the past 50 years, they were going to have to bring something to the table. And that's sort of how things stood until very recently. The Yamaha R3 has practically fallen into obscurity alongside the CBR 300R and the Gixxer 250. For newer riders looking to get a well-equipped and approachable beginner sport bike they could learn on and ultimately turn into a track day toy, the spec sheets would point you to either the RC390 or the Ninja 400. But now the pendulum has swung back the other way, and now the RC390, which once stood as the most value-driven, fully fared beginner sport bike in the class, is just at risk of becoming obsolete as the Japanese equivalent that it had previously outclassed. One of the motorcycles that stands as the biggest contender to dethrone the RC390 is the CF Moto 450 SS. CF Moto, based in Minnesota and manufactured in China, has been gradually establishing itself in the motorcycling market in recent years. Interestingly enough, CF Moto is also in partnership with KTM, where they manufacture some engines for KTM motorcycles, using them in their own CF Moto branded motorcycles as well. The 450 SS, a highly competitive motorcycle in the CF Moto lineup, exemplifies the changing landscape in global motorcycle manufacturing. The fully fared sport bike, positioned as an attractive option for beginner riders seeking value, notably outshines the KTM RC390 in various aspects. Its 450cc parallel twin engine, featuring a unique 270-degree crank, sets itself apart in the small displacement category by delivering a performance reminiscent of a traditional V-twin engine. With 50 horsepower and 29 foot-pounds of torque, the 450 SS surpasses peak power in comparison to beginner sport bikes from major manufacturers. The bike's dimensions, including a 31-inch seat height and 370-pound curb weight, align well with its target audience. The 450 SS stands out as a modern machine incorporating LED lighting, aerodynamic winglets, and advanced features such as a TFT display with Bluetooth connectivity and Continental ABS. Notably, it includes a Brembo brake caliper in the front, a premium feature uncommon in motorcycles at this price point, minimizing the value the lower-level bi-brake brakes provide on an RC. Priced at $5,699, the 450 SS demonstrates CF Moto's commitment to offering a competitive and well-equipped motorcycle in the market. Maybe because of their connection to KTM might sell an RC 450 using an R270-degree twin from the 450 SS. That would be kind of neat. But as it stands right now, the RC390 is still this svelte, ultra-lightweight, and very race-oriented beginner bike, but again, starting to get kind of outclassed. Kawasaki is also highly motivated to not be dethroned by the increasing competition in the beginner bike segment. Despite already making one of the best beginner sport bikes available, for 2024 they have updated the Ninja 400 and replaced it with the Ninja 500, which, don't be fooled by its name, uses a 451cc engine, making it on par with the CF Moto 450 SS, and of course rounding up to the best possible number. This model shares many components with the Ninja 400, including the frame and suspension. However, a significant distinction lies in the incorporation of the newly developed 451cc engine, originally designed for a Kawasaki Eliminator 450 Cruiser. The engine in the Ninja 500 represents a modification on the previous platform with increased stroke while maintaining the original bore. That means it's going to be a little less rev happy. This adjustment is anticipated to impact torque more significantly than peak power. Kawasaki claims the new power figures to be 45 horse and 31 foot-pounds of torque, making it the torquiest small displacement sport bike in the class. To fully bring the Ninja 500 into the modern sport bike paradigm, it will also come equipped with a TFT display as well. And if we can talk a quick moment that Honda kind of failed upward with the CBR 500R, now having a fully competitive bike in a segment that caught up to it, which is just kind of funny in my opinion. I still think it's way too heavy and way too expensive for the category. Seriously, that bike cost more than $7,000. Not only does the RC390 risk being outclassed by its step sibling, the CF Moto 450SS, it also risks dominance from its full-blooded sibling, the 2024 Duke 390, whose updated specs look to be fully unveiled, while KTM made no mention of a 2024 RC390. The new Duke has seen updates to its frame, engine, graphics, and tech package. The previous 373cc has been beefed up to 399cc's, which provides a small increase in power, bringing the numbers up to 44 horsepower and 29 foot-pounds of torque. What was previously a huge advantage that the RC390 had over the Duke was its implementation of adjustable suspension. The Duke no longer makes such compromises, as it's now using WP Apex suspension with breed round and compression damping, as well as preload adjustable shock in the rear for the 2024 model year. The 2024 Duke 390 has an updated 5-inch TFT dash with smartphone connectivity, ride modes including rain, street, and track, and even a new launch control feature, which is a little silly if you ask me, but hey, it's KTM, what can you do? So that begs the question, what will a 2024 or even a 2025 RC390 look like? Because now in the wake of the 450SS and the Ninja 500, it is quickly losing its position as the best beginner sport bike on the market, even if people are just shopping based on numbers, not based on actual capability, because the RC390 will still absolutely mop up in bone stock trim versus both of those bikes. There are plenty of rumors and speculations floating around, but I think it will get the larger engine from the Duke, or at least a retuned version of the original. But KTM did give the RC390 some pretty substantial updates over the year, including a frame redesign, ride-by-wire, and improved suspension components, so it's unlikely it's going to receive a complete engine redesign anytime soon. I think they should just put the 450SS in it, give it a quick shifter as standard, and make it very lightweight, and leave everything else the same. That would retain much of the RC390's flavor, but provide an increase in power and riding experience that is separate from the Duke, which is now the larger engine and improved suspension, but doesn't leave much left on the table to incentivize riders to go for the RC. There's also a bit of a conspiracy theory that says that the 450SS from CF Moto was intended to be the new RC450, but they then rebranded it to be CF Moto. Leave me a comment below if you think that conspiracy is true, because I don't really know, kind of on the fence. Because even using a 399cc Duke engine would leave the RC390 behind in terms of the horsepower and torque on the CF Moto and the Ninja. But then of course there's always a matter of staying within A2 requirements for maximum horsepower, so they'd have to sell a Euro-friendly A2 version as well, like CF Moto does with the 450SR, which maxes out at 47 horsepower. Either way, KTM has to do something about the RC390, otherwise it stays as a coveted beginner sport bike may be over. And heck, that's not even including the fact that Aprilia launched the RS457, which could be the new darling ultra track ready beginner bike, leaving the RC390 in a bit of its shadow. Let me know what you guys think about the RC390 losing its place as a top beginner bike. I'd love to hear it. Fact: the organic compound isoamyl acetate is naturally found in fruit and is used as artificial flavor to replicate the taste of bananas or pears. It is also used as the same compound released by bees under duress to signal other bees to attack. Goodbye.
Wake up! You're dreaming! You're dreaming! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! None of this is real! None of it's real! None of it's real! Wake up! Keep watching Amy Noob.